Welcome to our Junior Cycle SPHE Essentials recording. The purpose of this recording is to provide you with some of the essential information you may require when starting out as a Junior Cycle SPHE teacher. We will discuss the role SPHE has in our schools, the aim of SPHE as a curricular area of well-being, and how we can support our students through teaching, learning, assessing and reporting activities in the SPHE classroom. In this recording, we will outline the role of SPHE and its aims as a curricular area of well-being. We will discuss the importance of creating a safe learning environment for SPHE, the key circulars and documentation that will support you as the SPHE teacher, and we will examine SPHE through the lens of teaching, learning, assessing and reporting. As you can see, SPHE is designed to enable students to develop a positive sense of themselves and a commitment to caring for themselves and others. The skills developed through SPHE are vital for self-fulfillment, for living in communities and for full engagement in learning beyond SPHE. Through this curricular area of well-being, SPHE is designed to help students develop skills which will support their own personal reflection, their empathy towards others and themselves, as well as building resilience. 2021 Revised Wellbeing Guidelines clearly state the importance of SPHE as a subject, as it creates learning moments for students specific to the areas of health and well-being. It also provides opportunities for students to develop their positive sense of self and develop an understanding of what healthy relationships are. SPHE supports students to develop social skills, to enhance their self-awareness, to develop coping mechanisms and problem-solving skills through their classroom interactions and through a learning outcomes design specification. As the SPHE teacher, your role in the classroom is more facilitative in nature than other subject areas. As the teacher, it is important to support the development and nurturing of a safe classroom environment. When we plan in consultation with our students, try to meet them where they are at in terms of their everyday lives, use a range of active teaching and learning methodologies, we are supporting our students to learn in our SPHE classroom. It is important that we acknowledge our own lack of knowledge. We will not have all the answers in the SPHE classroom, so it is important to let go of the need to be an expert. When trying to create a conducive learning environment, where do we start? SPHE is a very broad subject with very important content to support young people as they navigate their way through life. Some of this content can be quite sensitive or sometimes challenging, so it is really important that you, as the teacher, create a safe learning environment for both yourself and your students. In organizing the learning environment, you should be careful to create an atmosphere that respects the privacy of each individual student and treat all students with due sensitivity and care. Some important considerations might be the degree of trust, respect, and positive regard for students, the relationships between you, the teacher, and the students, and among the students themselves, the needs of the students, and the need for clear expectation, goals, and learning objectives. In SPHE, through the use of experiential methodologies and group work, students have the dedicated space and time in this short course to develop their understanding and skills to learn about themselves, to take care for themselves and others, and to make informed decisions about their health and well-being in a rapidly changing world. We have a short video on our PDST website that demonstrates what the experiential learning cycle looks like in the SPHE classroom. We have an ask model of teaching and learning in SPHE: attitudes, skills, and knowledge. There is a need for a balance between knowledge, concept formation, understanding, skills, and attitudes. In many ways, students bring information to the SPHE classroom for critical scrutiny, analysis, and evaluation. The ask model is focused on not solely the passing on of new information, but in the processing of that information. While we emphasize learning attitudes, skills, and knowledge, SPHE also includes development of awareness of feelings, as well as the development of values. Thus, we see the desirability of a spiral approach to SPHE generally. What might the ask model look like in the SPHE curriculum today? On the right of the slide is an example of what the ask model might look like when exploring the topic of mental health. Please take a few moments to reflect on these to support an understanding of this approach. We want students to have knowledge regarding the difference between mental health and mental illness. The various skills that students develop within the SPHE class are transferable to other curricular areas, as well as transferable to their lives outside of school. A positive, caring, and respectful atmosphere is needed to support you in adopting a facilitator of learning role in SPHE. This requires a safe classroom in which ground rules and boundaries are clear. A powerful yet simple approach to create and sustain a positive, caring, and respectful relationship is through the co-creating of a class agreement. By co-creating an agreement with your students, a sense of empowerment is created where students can collaboratively agree on the various standards, values, and behaviours they would like to see upheld throughout the school year. Some examples of what students might suggest can be seen on this slide. This is one of the many ways that student voice can be enhanced in the SPHE classroom. Consulting with students about the content of SPHE lessons and the methodologies for teaching and learning will produce valuable insights. Finding out which topics a particular class or year group feels are most important to them at this moment in time will give you a very current picture of their needs. And the very act of consulting with your students will help foster positive teacher-student relationships and shared responsibility for the learning. Please refer to our recording, Resources for Teaching, Learning and Assessment, for more information on the range of resources and methodologies that can support this student-centered approach to teaching and learning in SPHE. It's important to consider what are the referral procedures or pathways in your school, and are the students aware of these? These referral pathways will differ from school to school, so as the SPHE teacher, it is important that you and your students know how to access specific support. It is also really important to remember that you are the SPHE teacher, not a school counsellor, and you are not expected to deal with students one-to-one in a counselling situation. Looking at this diagram, we can see that, like all things in our school community, it is student-centered. Every school's support structures vary, so it is an important responsibility of all SPHE teachers to be familiar with your school's referral process. Before you introduce a new topic you feel may be sensitive in nature, think about who you might need to notify on the pathway of referral to best support students who may be in need of further support. Before embarking upon the facilitating of your SPHE lesson, it is also important to revisit some of your school's key policies. Some school policies that are pertinent to support the creation and sustaining of a safe environment are the following. Code of Behaviour or Code of Positive Behaviour. It is vitally important that students recognise that although SPHE class offers many opportunities for discussion, collaboration, problem solving and debate, the school standards of behaviour are applicable in the SPHE class as all other classes. All educators find themselves dealing with sensitive and controversial issues in the classroom, and the likelihood of this arising in SPHE or SE is greater due to the nature of topics examined and their personal importance. Having a comprehensive familiarity of the child protection procedures, as well as your school's child safeguarding statement and risk assessment, is paramount to ensure that we are following the correct protocols if a child protection concern arises. It would be remiss of me to speak to the CPP without referring to your school's anti-bullying policy. It is important that students are familiar with your school's anti-bullying policy, in particular an understanding of what constitutes bullying. Your school's RSE SPHE policy indicates how RSE will be implemented in the school. Familiarity with this supports you, as the SPHE teacher, with how best to structure your lessons so that a consistent approach is taken to teaching and learning across the junior cycle groups. Some additional policies, also worth perusing, are visible on the slide. Circular 5921 provides important information regarding wellbeing planning in schools. As you can see from the slide, the circular clearly states that from September 2022 onwards, the use of the junior cycle syllabus will be discontinued. Therefore, the two options that remain are Option 1, using the NCCA designed short course specification for SPHE, or Option 2, a school designed or externally designed short course in SPHE. Some additional circulars that are important to familiarise yourself with are the following: 27/2008 and 37/2010 remind schools of their obligation to develop a school policy in regard to relationships and sexuality education. Circular 4318 offers best practice guidance for post-primary schools in the use of programs and/or external facilitators in promoting well-being. And finally, 3321 provides information on the inspectorate's work on researching, supporting, and monitoring the implementation of anti-bullying procedures in schools during the 2021-2022 school year. This is particularly relevant for SPHE teachers, as there are specific learning outcomes linked to the school's anti-bullying policy. Strand 2, Learning Outcome 2.12. As already referenced, schools from September 2022 have two options when it comes to planning their SPHE program. Here we are going to focus on Option 1, the NCCA's short course specification. There are three key documents that are important to familiarise yourself with as you plan for your junior cycle SPHE lessons. The SPHE specification, which details the 45 learning outcomes associated with this short course. The SPHE assessment guidelines, which explores how we can embed effective assessment approaches into teaching and learning in SPHE. And finally, the Wellbeing Guidelines, which offer guidance on whole school wellbeing, as well as offering samples of wellbeing programs designed to accommodate 400 timetabled wellbeing hours. The SPHE short course specification is divided into 4 strands. These include Who Am I?, Minding Myself and Others, Team Up, and My Mental Health. There are a total of 45 learning outcomes linked to the specification. On this slide, you can see the list of learning outcomes under each of these strands. It is expected that by the end of Year 3, students will have had an opportunity to engage with all 45 of these learning outcomes. Make sure everyone, students, parents, and teachers, have a common understanding of what well-being means. 6 indicators have been identified. These indicators make explicit what is important for young people in supporting their well-being and in their learning. The indicators of well-being can support conversations about student well-being and may help identify where a student is in need of support. In SPHE, all except one of these indicators can be activated through different SPHE methodologies. The only exception is the active indicator. Assessment is a critical component of effective teaching and learning. As teachers, we all want to improve students' learning and students' achievement. But how do we know what interventions or teaching strategies work best? This can be quite challenging in the SPHE classroom, especially if we haven't taught a group before and are unaware of their previous learning. Assessment is a useful tool to use in advance of a lesson to assess students' current knowledge and understanding of a topic. Additionally, we can use assessment techniques during the class to support students' learning. This can be through simple observation and/or by using effective questioning techniques. When we gather evidence of learning during the learning process, we can use this to adapt teaching to meet students' needs. Finally, assessment post-lessons can also support teaching and learning. Checking in with students through reflection sheets, quizzes, and group projects can offer a clear trajectory towards future lesson planning, ensuring that the material is pitched at the right level for your students. A useful technique to support assessment in SPHE class is by using the what, so what, now what strategy. This can be useful to stimulate small group discussions or alternatively for individual reflection. The nature of much of students' learning in SPHE is concerned with attitudes, values, and feelings, and is personal to the student. Students should be encouraged to keep a personal learning diary for the duration of the short course, where they can reflect privately on their learning in SPHE. With the agreement of the student, some of the entries may be used to support different learning activities, but essentially the personal learning diary is private and for the student only. The NCCA has developed 6 Focus on Learning documents to support teachers as they begin to expand and diversify their assessment techniques and are particularly useful in the SPHE lessons. These are available on the NCCA website. The link to these is also visible at the bottom of the slide. Booklet 4, Students Reflecting on Their Learning, is particularly useful when trying to encourage reflection among your students. In this booklet, on page 7, you will find specific prompt questions to share with your students to stimulate their thoughts and reflections. These might be useful to print off and make visible in your SPHE class. Ongoing reporting is an important feature of the Junior Cycle framework as a means to enhance learning and assessment. Ongoing reporting refers to the systems and structures that the school puts in place to report on students' progress right across the school year. It can also involve end-of-year reporting and awarding of certificates to celebrate the learning and personal development of students across the 3 years of the junior cycle. The Wellbeing Guidelines 2021 state that it is expected that schools will report on students' learning about well-being as part of ongoing assessment and reporting throughout the junior cycle. Wellbeing aims to provide parents with a picture of what students are learning about well-being and the skills they are developing to support their well-being. Reporting on students' learning in the area of well-being is included in a dedicated section on the JCPA. The SPHE Assessment Guidelines provide detailed advice on assessment and other practical issues. Further bespoke support in SPHE and RSE is available to you and your colleagues by visiting www.pdst.ie and choosing the School Support tab. One of our health and wellbeing advisors can visit your school and offer support at a pace and path that works for your own school context. All requests must be approved by your principal. We would like to thank you for taking time to engage with this short recording. We hope that it has been of benefit to you as you prepare for your SPHE lessons.